guys, we have a special guest on the Tavern today. You've seen him on AEW, and he is the current Create A Pro Heavyweight Champion. Today, we have the pleasure of sitting down and talking with VSK. Hey, man, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you for having me. And not
Absolutely.
to correct you, but I am the longest reigning Create A Pro champion in history, which I think is a big deal.
Longest reigning and most successful, according to Brian Myers.
Yes, I think he did tweet that recently. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's get right into it, man. Like, before you started training, I'm guessing you were a fan of pro wrestling. That's usually how it goes. Who were your guys? Just explain like how you got into pro wrestling, your early fandom, and who were some of your favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. So my dad was actually a wrestling fan before I was even born. So one of my first toys as a kid was the big rubber LJN Hulk Hogan. So like wrestling has just always kind of been there in my life. And the kind of moment that I knew I wanted to get into wrestling was watching WrestleMania 7, Macho and Ultimate Warrior.
Oh,
That match, just incredible match, and then all the emotion with Liz coming back at the end.
Oh, yeah.
I remember sitting on my couch with my Macho Man wrestling buddy, getting all teared up, and I was like, whatever, 4 at the time, and I was just like, this is something different, like I couldn't explain it at the time, but I was like, oh wow. So then ever since then, like that's been my only thing. Like wrestling has just been like the main thing in my life. And then when like 94, 95, when like Shawn Michaels started like coming up and really making his name for himself, I was like, I want to be that guy. As much as I can be.
Yeah. Shawn Michaels. I mean, that era of Shawn Michaels, that's kind of, I'm 37. So that was along the lines of just being a kid and being into it. And Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. I mean, come on. So good.
Like our whole generation, I'm 34. So like that whole span of like, like the 30-year-olds to like the late 30-year-olds now, everybody says that they're influenced by Shawn Michaels, and it's hard to, not see his fingerprint on wrestling with all of the super kicks and like Adam Cole is like a modern day Shawn Michaels. You got AJ Styles, who has so many similar things, and he's a little bit older than us, but you can see so much of Shawn Michaels in him. And Seth Rollins, it's just he has such a big footprint that everyone is trying to fill, and nobody can.
Right. Yeah. The showstopper, man.
Yeah. And I think, Shawn Michaels too, it's for our generation. He was the first guy to show us going from an uber baby face to a super heel, that was the first guy that I ever saw go through that transition. So, I mean, that's what kind of hooked me on Shawn Michaels.
Yeah. The barbershop window. I mean, Hogan turning later on was probably for the business bigger, but to me that I remember being a kid and just being heartbroken when that happened because I loved the Rockers. So it was so crazy.
Intended, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So what was the moment, you're a fan, you love wrestling, but what was that moment where you're like, you know what? I don't want to be just a fan. I think I want to really do this and you go after it.
Well, my life plan from like a very early age was always I'll go to school, I'll finish school, and then I'll go to the Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy, because I think that opened in whatever 2001 or 2002. So that was like I was in high school now, so I'm like, okay, I'm starting to figure out like this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to do it. But by the time I graduated high school, school was already gone.
Yeah.
So I actually started going to NYWC, which is a local indie down here on Long Island, which is like that's where Hawkins and Ryder and Trent and Nice, that's where they all came from. So like I was watching guys like them, Dan Barry. I was looking at these guys who were, my age and doing this, and I was like, holy crap, I didn't realize this was right in my backyard.
Yeah.
So going to those shows for like, I actually saw there was a seminar with Mike Bucci for Victory Pro Wrestling. And my wife actually, unbeknownst to me, signed me up for it. I got home from college one day. She's like, okay, you're going to start training to be a wrestler on this day. You're going to your first seminar. I was like, oh, okay. And then ever since then, just the ball's been rolling.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's pretty cool to have a wife who supports you like that, where she just takes it upon herself to do that for you.
100%. She had, since day one, she's been number one fan, most supportive person, and has really helped get me along as far as I've been. Without her, like none of this happens.
That's awesome, man. But obviously she reacted well, but how did some of your friends and family react when you made the decision?
I think a lot of my friends knew this was the avenue that I was going to travel, but I don't think anyone really knew like the logistics of it. Like, can a person just say they're going to be a pro wrestler and go be a pro wrestler?
Right.
So like as like Facebook and stuff started to come about, I started wrestling in 2007. So it was right around the time like Facebook was becoming a bigger thing. So people would see that I was going to wrestle and stuff, and they're like, "Oh wow, it's really cool that you're doing the thing that you said you were going to do your whole life."
Yeah.
My parents were kind of like, get it out of your system and then see what happens. But 14 years later, I haven't gotten it out of my system yet. So they've come around.
It's awesome. So what were your first days of training like? Like when the first time you got in the ring, the first time you went to training?
So that seminar was the first time, and I didn't know, unbeknownst to either of us, it was like a seminar for more experienced people. So I got in the ring and I just started doing these roll drills and these bump drills, and I had never been in a ring before. And I was literally just going based on what I saw on MTV's True Life and kind of what I envisioned a bump and a roll was from watching wrestling
Right.
for so long.
Yep.
So we finished the seminar, and I got pulled aside, and they're like, "Hey, you move pretty well. How long have you been doing this?" And I was like, "Today. I've been doing the training started today." But then after that, it's like, the first time you're in a ring, it's like you're a kid in a candy store. I remember just wanting to hit the ropes and do all these intricate running spots that I knew how to do nothing of. And it's just like you wanna learn and you want to do all these things, but you don't know how to do anything or why you're doing anything. But just being there just feels so cool.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And you bring up the MTV True Life, for you to see that and be like, yeah, I want to do that, because I remember watching that and they made the bumps look so vicious. That guy was so beat up by the end of that show. Like,
well,
it was
I
so
don't know
bad.
if anyone has ever talked to you guys about this. There's a really strange phenomenon that happens the first time you run the ropes in a professional wrestling ring. Your back gets bruises across it, one like up by your shoulders and one more your mid back. And I guess it's just your body never running into ropes before.
Right.
But then
Yeah.
after week 2, it never happens again for the rest of your life. And it's the strangest phenomenon. And like, I remember people, when all of us were out of the ring for a while after the quarantine, the first training back at Create A Pro, we have a little group chat, and a bunch of people were saying, I just got those first week rope burns on my back again. It's been so long that we wrestled. So that's like one of the things where like you have all this fun, you're running the ropes and you're getting slammed, and it's like no care in the world. And then as soon as it's over, you're like, oh boy, that takes a lot more of a toll than you realize.
Yeah. A lot of people we've talked to have said the ropes are worse than the bumps.
Yeah, they definitely can be. Like, especially the tighter the ropes, the harder they're like hitting concrete if they're tight, which like nowadays hopefully everywhere is tight, because I like to do crazy flippy moves off the ropes and springboard stuff. So like that's what I look for. And then like you don't think about it and you hit the ropes and you're like, ooh, okay, stand you up straight for a second.
Yeah. So when you were, in the beginnings of your training, and everyone, talks about the physical side of it and everything, but what was it like getting the psychological side of it? The psychology of working a match. Did you find that to be maybe even more difficult than the actual physical toll?
I think that's something that to this day, 14 years in, is still a learning process. You see one style and you kind of say, okay, I get that. Then you see another style and it's like, oh, that's completely different. I've never seen anything like that. And then you have to kind of relearn and understand. And I think as just wrestling changes and the styles evolve, you always kind of have to be learning about the psychology and that kind of thing. But I remember for me, when I first started, my like first day trainer was the owner of Victory Pro Wrestling, this guy named Donnie Bon Jovi, who was like an indie worker in the Northeast. And then about a year into my training, he brought in Ricky Reyes, who was like fresh out of ROH, like tag team champion with Rocky. And I remember looking him up on YouTube and being like, oh man, this guy is a killer and he's going to murder all of us. And then once we got in the ring and started working with him, he didn't give a shit about, I don't know if I can curse, but I just did.
Oh yeah.
Go wide open here.
Yeah, he didn't give a shit about any of the moves that we could learn or like anything like that. He was like, this is the structure of a match and this is what you need to learn. He was like, this is how you get from point A to point B. And then he's like, you can't get all of a sudden to D without explaining C, and so on and so forth. So like he really hammered home that side of it from the beginning. And I think that that is something that has definitely helped me a lot throughout wrestling, because no matter what stuff I was learning that was like this cool move that I can do, in the back of my head, the base of my training was, here's how you put a match together.
Right. Yeah. I think that the more and more we talk to people, it seems like that is, like you said, it's a constant learning experience. You never really truly feel like you've mastered it, which is a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even just like, this is not meant to be like a braggy name droppy thing, but the matches I've been having with AEW Dark recently, I've been getting to get in the ring with some people who are, you know, more experienced than me, more experienced in television wrestling than me, and having their help with calling a match and listening to them is like a whole new learning experience that I didn't realize that I needed. And then you go out and do it, and it's like, oh crap, I didn't think of that, and I didn't think of this camera being here, and I didn't think to tell them to give a close up to your face here because I need this emotion to be shown. So
Right.
this whole ever evolving, never ending learning process.
So you talked about your early training, but how and when did your involvement with Create A Pro start?
So I was with Victory Pro Wrestling till from like, I want to say like I trained there for 3 or 4 years. Maybe it was like 5 years I trained there. So now it's like 2012. And then I started to feel kind of burnt out by the training there. Just like I felt like we weren't learning as much. Ricky was coming down a little bit less. So like I started looking for like new avenues, and thank goodness Create A Pro opened up, excuse me, in I think it was 2014, where I was kind of like, okay, I'm at a crossroads here. I got to find something new, or kind of, you know, this is going to be where we shut the door. And Create A Pro came around. I went down to their open house, and I met Brian, I met Pat, and their enthusiasm for wrestling and their like training facility. It was nothing like I'd ever seen before. I don't know if you have you guys been down to the Create A Pro school or seen it at all?
I've seen it.
Yeah, I
I've
haven't been
seen
there.
it.
It's like there's an office in the front, and then you walk out of the office, and it's just a ring with like lighting and an entranceway, and it's just like, holy crap, this is like a wrestling studio. Like it looks like the old WCW NWA studio.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like,
Yep.
oh wow, this is a whole new thing. And I knew the experience that, you know, Brian brings along with him, because at the time it was his first run in WWE that he was there. And then Pat, you know, he's been wrestling forever. I know he's had a bunch of stints with WWE developmental. And I said, this is the next step so that I can learn something new, so that I can kind of bring out a different side of me. And thank goodness I did, because we had a little bit where I was going to like open rings, and they knew I was experienced and could do some stuff. And then after going to a few open rings and working with everybody, I want to say whenever MJF started, they brought me on as like an assistant trainer. And there's nothing like being a trainer to help you teach yourself the things that
Yeah.
you don't even think that you know or understand,
Oh,
or
yeah.
it brings a whole new understanding to what you're saying and what you're doing.
I mean, you guys like Create A Pro. I don't know if casual fans understand how many great guys you guys are putting out. I mean, you've got MJF, Kris Statlander, Bear Bronson's been getting love on AEW. Alex Reynolds, John Silver. I think
Max
they're
Caster. If you
associated,
didn't say
right?
Caster, I want to make sure
Max
Caster's in there.
Caster. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you guys have been churning out like great
It's
talent.
it says a lot about the school, and it also says a lot about the people that are there, because, you know, obviously everyone's getting taught kind of the same lessons, and it's up to you to do something with that lesson and make something of it. And one of the things that I noticed about Create A Pro from the first second I walked in, it was a very special group of guys with a very special attitude. Everybody wanted to try as hard as they could and push each other as far as they could. And like obviously MJF, from the moment that he walked in, everybody was like, okay, this guy, he's something different, he's something special. And you know, he had blown up within his first 2 years, and it was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is now like, this is the goal. Everybody needs to try and be like him. And you know, to his credit, he was always around as much as he could, trying to help out everybody else. And like I said, everybody just had that attitude that they wanted to succeed, they wanted to make it. And the Create A Pro, it's very special because they help bring out that drive in everybody. So you know, everybody walks in, everybody gets that same lesson, gets taught the same stuff, but somehow they're also given this intense like will to be the best that they can be. And I've been to a lot of wrestling schools in my time, and I've never seen that camaraderie and that just like you walk in and everyone is patting each other on the back, trying to help each other out, and everyone's goal is, hey, let's make this the most that we can make it.
Yeah, we spoke to Phil Cardigan a couple months ago, and Phil was talking about how, and you hear this about AEW too backstage, but he was talking about Create A Pro and how much of a family it feels like. Like you guys not only are just in the gym together, but you're having outings together, and
yeah, you're doing Christmas party. Like your Christmas parties look like I want to go to a Cap Christmas party.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's an unbelievable camaraderie. You know, like I mentioned earlier, like I'm in a Create A Pro group chat. I think there's something like 10 different Create A Pro group chats because everyone just wants to be talking to each other and giving each other their ideas and pitching different things and talking about the ins and outs of wrestling. Everyone is very consumed by this. And it's funny you bring up Philip Cardigan. He is a Victory Pro Wrestling student originally. He is the actual last trainee of Ricky Reyes at Victory Pro Wrestling. And when Victory Pro Wrestling was kind of like they weren't doing the training anymore, it was kind of like starting to go down. Phil came over to Create A Pro, and it took him a little time to find his bearings and stuff. But the difference from his last Victory Pro Wrestling appearance to like his first Create A Pro appearance, just the amount of training and how hard they make you try at Create A Pro. You could see a difference in everything from his in-ring work to his promos to his character. He's done a complete 180. He's someone that, like, if Victory Pro Wrestling ended and that was the last thing he ever did, he'd be like, who is this guy? Like, why is he in the ring? But no offense. But ever since he's come down to Create A Pro, it's like he's a new person, and it's completely revigorated his career, and he's got a whole new lease on what he can do and what his potential is, whereas before people may not have seen that.
And that's a testament to Create A Pro. I mean, just like you said, it seems like those guys are great at finding the you, because you've always heard wrestlers say, the best character is you turned up to 11. And it seems like they're really great at doing that.
Oh, for sure. And that one of the really cool things is they let you experiment and they let you kind of figure out what your way is. Kris Statlander, she's someone that I have like tried to help out as much as I can in wrestling. And I remember seeing her come in, and first she was a manager for a tag team. Then she decided she wanted to get into the wrestling, and she was doing like a Kill Bill type thing. And then like they let her do that for a little while. She messed around with like some other gimmicks at other places. And then one day she was like, I think I'm an alien. And we were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then it was like, everyone was kind of like, okay, that sounds really weird, but do your thing. And then it turns out we were all wrong to say that it was weird, and it's actually she's an alien. So my apologies.
Yeah, you guys even had matches together, right? Didn't you? You've wrestled Kris a few times.
So this is where I'll get sentimental. Kristen's first week there was also my first week as a trainer, and we were doing drills, and one of the drills was just up and overs in the corner. She went to do an up and over, she slipped. She hit her forehead on the ring post and split her forehead. Still has a little. So she, I stopped the class and I was like, are you okay? Like, can we get her some paper towels and something to like wipe this blood off or whatever? And she's like, yeah, I'm good. Let's try it again. And I was like, oh, okay. You don't want to like sit down for a second? Like, you're bleeding from the face right now. Like, no. So ever since then, I was like, okay, this girl's something special and she wants it. And I like to think I'm one of her wrestling dads. I mean, she calls me one of her wrestling dads. And, I definitely think that she has gone above and beyond what anyone ever could imagine that she would do. And a big part of it is because I know for myself, I never treated her like a girl wrestler. She happened to be a girl, but she's a wrestler. And that's the thing that she's always wanted to be. She just wants to be a wrestler. She doesn't want to be a girl wrestler. She just wants to be the best wrestler that she can be. So there's a special place in my heart for her. And I have all the time in the world for people who have that kind of attitude.
I think we're all excited to see her come back from the injury. And I mean, she was just getting ready to take off, I feel like.
Absolutely.
It made
no
me,
pun intended.
Yeah.
I mean, it made me super happy to see her show up back on on being the elite.
Yeah,
So,
BTE. Yeah. What so you brought up MJF, so I've just got to ask, what has it been like? Now, did you have a hand in training him as being an assistant trainer? Like, what's it like seeing this guy? Because, you know, you see a lot of awards being thrown around, best heel in pro wrestling. I mean, the guy is living the gimmick. He's old school. I feel like he's an old soul. He's a throwback.
Let me correct you right there. He's not living the gimmick. It's not a gimmick. He's just living. That's just Max being Max. Yeah, I did have a hand in training him. Max is very smart because when he first got in, he listened to everybody and he figured out who were the best people to listen to. And luckily, for whatever reason, he trusted my word along with Brian's and Pat's and countless other people, because MJF doesn't get to where MJF is without some help, but also MJF was going to get where he got no matter what. So it's it's a little strange mix, but yeah, I had a hand in training him, and seeing how much he's done, it blows me away. And like, I think sometimes he can't really grasp how far he's gone and how much he's done. And like, I have his figure. I think it's right over there. His figure somewhere right behind me.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was one of the coolest things. I got to go to the toy fair because I'm sometimes involved in the Major Wrestling Figure podcast.
Yeah.
So I went to Toy Fair with them, and I got to go see the first ever MJF figure. Like,
that's awesome.
It was revealed to the world before Max got to see it. And I was just like, damn, I literally saw this kid on his first day of training. And I've had like countless matches with him. I've done countless drills with him. And now they're a 6-inch figure that looks exactly like him is there. Like, it's mind-blowing.
Crazy.
It's really, really cool. I couldn't be happier for him. And as much as he's a dick, like, we have a very loving relationship.
So you got to go with Mark when Brian and Matt weren't allowed to go to the AEW side.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they called me up because they were afraid to go in that little section. So Mark and I Mark mostly did the questions while I held the camera, and we got to talk to Magic, and that was a really, really cool experience. Like, it's fun to do these little things that you don't ever think you'll do or even know is a thing. Like, oh yeah, I'll go to Toy Fair and see my friend's wrestling figure. Like, I didn't think that was even an option, but it's a really cool thing when you get to do it.
And the stuff that Magic and Jeremy are doing over with Jazzwares, and I mean, I'm excited to see who they're going to put out in their lines.
And the cool thing about AEW is that so many of my friends or people that I've wrestled on the indies over all these years, and now I get to see them in figure form. Like, they just did Proud and Powerful, guys that I've traveled the road with and wrestled a bunch of times, and those figures look unbelievable. And it's just so cool to be like, oh, my friend's on the shelf over there. You know what I mean? That's just the coolest thing. And
I can't imagine.
Every time Kristen now, I'm like, hey, did they scan you yet? Hey, did they scan you yet? Because I can't wait to put her figure next to my MJF figure.
Yes.
So you brought up your dad bringing home the LJ, the LJ and Hulk Hogan. We see the figures in the background. Was that so? Were you a collector before you started Create A Pro, like a hardcore collector? And if so, was that like a bonding thing for you and Brian?
100%, yes. So I always collected figures. That used to be like the Christmas gift, the birthday gift, the we're at a Toys R Us gift. It was always wrestling figures. So I had pretty much the entire LJN collection and Hasbro collection as a kid. And then as I was growing up, like, figures were just always a part of my life because I couldn't get enough wrestling. I would watch wrestling. I would play with the figures. I'd reenact the matches. I'd have my own matches, so on and so forth. So from literally the LJNs to, like, I don't know how nerdy we want to get here, but like from the LJNs through the Hasbros to the Bone Crunchers, the Ruthless Aggression guys, I had all of them up until even like when I was in college. They tell a similar story. Like, I had them set up throughout my room, like set up in the ring. And like, I had all the current roster guys in one ring, and then like shelves of like older guys. And I had, instead of like a headboard in my room, I had all of the Shawn Michaels, Jax figures in the boxes in order as a headboard. And somehow I still had a girlfriend. Yeah. But once my wife and I bought our house, which was 2011, the collecting kind of slowed down a little bit. Every once in a while, I'd see a Shawn Michaels or a Macho Man. I'd be like, that's really good. I'm going to get that just in case.
Right.
Yep.
And then when we renovated the basement, we made this space behind me with the shelves, because I always had this vision of having the television in the middle of my figures. So
Yeah.
we got these shelves, and I was like, oh, I can fill that with this, this, and this. And then I was like, well, now I have to buy this one and this one so that they go in there. And then like this happened about 3 years ago, and that was like right before I think the podcast had started. Just through talking to Brian and seeing his collection, I got really itchy to start collecting again. And then I made this space for it. I was like, oh, I have to fill the space. So I have these shelves behind me. Originally, it wasn't supposed to come out onto the table here, but now it's all on the table here. And
Yep.
then over there, I have 2 more shelves of Shawn Michaels, just Shawn Michaels figures. And then in the like behind this wall is my whole collection, which is 9 giant Rubbermaid bins just filled to the brim.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
It's a slippery slope, man.
Very slippery, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I have right behind him. I have the Grail of my collection, and then all around,
It's dangerous. It's dangerous. Oh,
my
that's
Grail.
awesome.
Yeah. So
very cool.
And I had no intentions of starting a an on-card Hasbro collection.
Yeah, because why
But
would
here
you?
we are.
We're adults.
Right.
Right. So talk to us about your involvement with AEW. How we see so many Create A Pro guys showing up in AEW. Now, is that something where you guys are coming in because of, MJF and Kris Statlander's involvement? Are they getting you in, or how does that come about? Because I mean, Max Caster, so many of you guys are down there putting on awesome matches on Dark. I think Dark is so underrated. Like I really enjoy watching it.
It's probably my favorite game to play now. Is what Create A Pro guy am I going to see come out? Like,
yeah.
And like when the first time you came out, when Justin Roberts, and I was like, and I literally said, "Is that VSK?" Like,
that's the gimmick, man. Is that VSK? You never know where I'm gonna pop up. So I obviously MJF got there first, and it just goes back to what I was saying before. As much as Max is a dick, he does make sure to take care of us because we are all family. So when Matt and Brian were in WWE, if something popped up in WWE, Brian went out of his way to try and help us out and get us something there. If something happens to open up, MJF will say, "Hey, look at me, look at Kristen, you can trust our school." And I think, over however long this Dark's been going on now, I think it's almost a year that they're doing these Darks where it's, 1,000 matches.
Yeah.
If they need people, they know that they can trust the people that come out of Create A Pro. The list of people that are signed right now and the list of people that have been in, to have a match or two, like, you're going to have a quality match. You have someone that you can trust. You have someone that's going to do the right thing. And that's what a lot of AEW is. It's, weeding out the people that you don't want around and keeping the good people to make it a better environment for everybody, because there's no reason that wrestling shouldn't be that. And that's what we're all going for. And that's, another thing that's kind of instilled in us in Create A Pro is just be a good person. Like be someone that people aren't going to hate to be around.
Right.
So, I think that definitely helps in all of our favors, on top of being, pretty good at being wrestlers as well.
Yeah, I mean, Smart Mark got to wrestle Moxley.
He main evented Dynamite, which
unbelievable.
Unreal.
Now you.
That just blows my mind. I can't get over that.
And speaking of figures too, I hope one day we get a scan of him in the outfit in an AEW box.
I don't want to say anything I'm not supposed to.
I like it.
So, we hear about. You've heard about you were talking about the Cardona challenge, Sneed.
Oh yeah. So I was listening to, I saw that he had tweeted to you and said that he had a challenge. And then I saw your tweet back, which was, I hope it's not take a shot whenever you say take a shot. But then on the podcast, he says that he wants to challenge you for the Create A Pro title. He says that he, quote, teach him how to grab a hold, teach him how to work. And he says, I can't wait to reboot some personality right into him.
Hey, I hope it works. I can use maybe a freshen up of my gimmick. Maybe he'll reboot like a totally new personality into me. No, listen, I've known Matt for a very long time, and if he wants to actually try and win a belt instead of just making one up for his podcast or backyard fed and then awarding it to himself, then I'm open for the challenge.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't, whatever. I mean, I don't know why he's got this itch to get another belt, but if he wants to get after mine, I'm sorry, you'll have to go challenge somebody else.
I love Brian. Brian told him he better hit the cardio because VSK is going to blow his ass off.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Listen, the match is happening. My title is going to be on the line. I just am very confident that I will run circles around him. And I think I'm going to try and prove that in the opening minutes of the match. I'll see if he can make it to like minute 3 before he's huffing and puffing.
So Brian's probably going to have to just get him a Wildcat replica to take home.
Yeah, I guess
because he's not
actually
taking
there are 2 Create A Pro belts because the original maker wanted the original one back. So we sent him the original and he made us a new, bigger version, which I don't like because it makes me look even smaller. Like, great, that's what I need. But there are 2, so maybe we'll have to hunt that guy down, challenge him to a match.
So you've had a pretty crazy amount of top opponents in your career. I mean, Adam Cole, Ethan Page, Shawn Spears, obviously MJF, Ricky Starks, Shawn Spears again on Dynamite, Brian Cage. Is there any like match out of your career that you think back on and it sticks out as being like a huge learning experience for you in one way or another?
The first match I had with Shawn Spears, where we wrestled at Create A Pro, that was like a big test. Like, it was his first match at a WWE, and it was a big, can you hang with this person? And I think he was looking at me saying, I want to go in there and have an independent match for the first time in 10 years. And I was looking at him saying, I want to see if I have what it takes to be in there with a WWE guy. And like, we just kind of met and had a very, very good match where it was a mixture of both. And that was a huge thing where I was like, okay, I can be on this level and hang with these guys. I think that was a huge one. I had a match where AJ Styles was my tag team partner. And that was a huge learning experience because AJ is someone that I've looked up to for years and years and years. And then to have him next to me and hear what his opinions on matches and wrestling. And it's just like, oh, okay, yeah. Let's do this way then. You're probably right. You're AJ Styles.
Yeah. With all of those opponents, you faced Adam Cole pretty early in your career, 2009, right?
I think it was both of our second year in wrestling.
What was that like? Like, with you guys, you're young, he's young. Did you see anything there? Like, were you both? What was going through your mind in that situation? Obviously, he's no one at the time. Both of you guys are starting out, but what was that like?
I remember after that match because Ricky Ray is from Pennsylvania at that time. I know he was living there. So I know he had talked to Adam Cole a little bit going in and out of WXW C4 and just giving him a little like training and learning tips and advice. And that was when Ricky was full blown my trainer. So after the match, we both kind of sat down and talked to Ricky and got his opinions on it. And I looked over to him and I was like, hey, you're really, really good. And he was like, oh, hey, thank you. You were really good too. And I was like, no, you're like really good. Like, I was kind of like, this is weird. Like, right. You're really good. So yeah, I mean, just being in there, I only got to wrestle on the once, literally 11 years ago or 12 years ago. And even then I was like, holy crap. And then, it's been cool I've been on a few indies and seen him around. And every time I'm at WWE backstage as an extra, and it's like, oh, he's there debuting at the Barclays Center. I'm like, damn, we just missed by this much, but he's just this much better, I guess.
Yeah, I always wonder about that with certain wrestlers because you hear, some people, it's the training and putting the time in, and then there's those other wrestlers that you get in there with, and you just know, like, they've got something more than the typical starting wrestler.
No, for sure, and there are people who are just born with a talent and a knack for this, and then hopefully they find the right training and the right environment to pull it out to the best of their ability. And for Adam Cole is 100% one of those people. Like I was saying earlier, MJF was going to make it no matter where he went, but thank goodness he went to Create A Pro and got the rocket strapped to his back and found the fastest lane to get there. He was going to get there, but it only took him 2 years because of the foundation that was laid at Create A Pro.
So you've worked with WWE, you've worked with AEW. Talk about the atmosphere backstage at both of these companies. Like, how do they compare? What's it like?
I think the biggest difference, I got a chance to do WWE extra work for a pretty good 5-year span where I was consistently there at least 3 or 4 times a year. And I got to have 2 matches. I was doing stuff where I was the medic and stuff like that. That became a running joke that I was always the medic. And even with that familiarity, it's a very different thing than AEW, because AEW is everybody's friends just hanging out. You know what I mean? There's no WWE hierarchy, I guess, that you don't have to worry about stepping on toes, or not to say you need to get overly comfortable in AEW, but I walk into an AEW locker room and I'm standing next to Johnny and Alex, who I've known for 15 years. Russ, I'm standing next to people that I've worked on the indies for the last 10 years. Guys who are agents who I've had matches with, guys who are on the main roster I've had matches with, guys that I've helped train are now on the roster. So it feels a little more welcoming, and very similar to Create A Pro. It feels like everyone's a family trying to get the best product out of what they're doing, because everybody kind of, it's the little engine that could. Nobody knew if it could go as far as it has, and it's already, I think, exceeded most people's expectations. And whether that's fair or not, everyone's fighting together to keep going as far as they can. So WWE, it's the big choo-choo train that's just going to keep going no matter what. So it doesn't matter if you're there or not, they're going to keep having a show next week. But AEW, it feels like, hey, what can we all do together to make this the best thing for next week? And not talking badly on WWE. If they want to call me, you have my email address.
Now you're the longest reigning Create A Pro champ, most successful. You have had a ton of matches with AEW. What are your goals for the next 5 years?
I want to do this as long as I can and do it on the highest level that I can. So, like I said, if AEW has something for me where I can get there as a full-time thing, 100% sign me up. If WWE has something where I can get there, sign me up. I've done a lot of independents, but there's still those top tier ones that I haven't gotten to touch yet. I've been lucky to work with Beyond and Limitless and places like that are that top end, but I've been, and AIW, I don't want to leave them out, but I've been kind of in my little circle. I haven't gone too far yet. Ohio for AIW, that was the furthest I've gone for one of those top indies. There's stuff in California I'd like to do. There's stuff in Florida I'd like to do. I want to travel and hit these big name things. I don't know when that's going to be a thing, since who knows when wrestling's going to get back to normal. But I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, and I want to do it on the highest level that I can. Like I said earlier, I feel like I'm at that point now where I'm there. I can hang, and I just want to keep showing that to people.
Awesome.
We don't have anything really crazy high level here in West Virginia, man, but we'd always like to see you come down.
Yeah, I think
absolutely.
Brian's done a few shows with ASW lately during the pandemic.
Yeah, he did a couple of drive-in shows, I think.
Yeah.
It was when he got to fight wrestle Shane Douglas. So
Oh, awesome. Yeah. I remember seeing clips from that match. Yeah. Absolutely. Like I said, it's just a matter of time before things start to open back up, and then hopefully once they do, what I've been doing over the last year, 6 months, people see that and want to have me wherever. I'm open.
Yeah.
Every show I go to, I want to sit there and have it in my back pocket to say, is that VSK?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, it's been a lot of fun having you. Before we let you go, we like to do, it's our Shoot Sixer. And it's 6 questions where you just kind of shoot straight with us. Doesn't have to be rapid fire, but just 6 fun questions we like.
All right, I'm bad at rapid fire, so I'll try not to slow it down too much.
Okay, no, you're good, man. Whatever.
All right, so number 1, if you had to add a piece of gear to your ensemble, would you rather wear MJF's scarf or Phil Cardigan's cardigan?
Oh man, I'll take. Oh, you know what? Ooh, that's tough. Yeah, like I said, not being rapid fire here. I'll take the scarf. No offense to Philip Cardigan's cardigan, but I know too many sweater vest clad Create A Pro Wrestling guys. I don't want to be part of their little group.
All right, man. Question number 2, the Montreal screw job. Whose side do you take?
Oh, Shawn Michaels 100%. That's a silly question.
I knew that was coming.
What other side is there?
Yep.
Number 3, Brian Myers, Kris Statlander, MJF, Bear Bronson, Alex Reynolds, John Silver, VSK, and so many others. What is the secret sauce at Create A Pro?
Oh, try. Don't stop trying. That's really what it is. Every name that you just listed, including Brian, these guys have trained their asses off, and I've watched them. I know Max went to every practice every day for, probably close to 2 years, even while he was wrestling on the indies 3 days a week. Kristen, 3 days a week there, every practice. She broke her heel like 2 or 3 months in. She still came to every practice and watched and learned and asked questions. You got to want it. And if you're at Create A Pro and you don't want it, go find another school, because this is a group of like-minded people that are going to try. And if you're not going to try, you're going to hold everybody else back. And we don't have time for that.
So we hear there used to be an old picture of your face passed around people's gear bags at Victory Pro. Would you like that picture back, or can Philip Cardigan keep it across from his framed Shawn Michaels Playgirl photo?
I'm keeping.
So you don't want it back?
No, that's okay. He can have it. He can have it.
No, you can keep it.
All right. Question number 5. The pandemic's over. You're making towns, going to indie shows. You can have any 3 wrestlers in your car, alive or dead. What 3 wrestlers do you want to make those towns with?
Oh, wow. 3, you said, right?
Yeah, 3, alive or dead.
So 100% Shawn Michaels. I'm going to go Shawn Michaels, Randy Savage, AJ Styles.
Oh, wow.
I think those are AJ Styles and Shawn Michaels. They're like number 1 and number 2, obviously Shawn first. And then Randy Savage, he was the kind of the guy, like I said earlier, that kind of like made it click. Like, this is a thing that's special and it's going to get me emotionally invested. So I think those 3 guys with their work rates, their emotional connection, their characters, just tell me all of the things you know.
Oh yeah, I've got the Macho Man.
That's awesome.
The Macho Man Hasbro on my arm. I love
really
Macho
cool.
Man.
All right, so the final question: who is VSK?
Oh, worst question. It's my least favorite question to answer. Because in a lot of ways, VSK is just Vinny Scalise, just the guy who wanted to be a wrestler his whole life and now is getting to do that. And then also, he is the guy who gets to be an asshole, and it's okay because I'm playing a character, but it's really just me. But also, don't boo me because I like to be cheered because I'm very vain. It's me, but it's like we said earlier, it's me turned to 11. Maybe I'm like 10 and a half. I'm trying to get to 11 still.
There you go. Well, kind of piggybacking on that, man, tell everybody where they can find you on social media and how they can find all your stuff.
Absolutely. On Instagram and Twitter, I'm at Is Vsk. And then head over to my Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/VSK. I got 4 shirts up there. They help out if you can buy 1 or 2, since I'm not doing a whole lot of wrestling nowadays. But yeah, any way you can support, throw me a like, throw me a follow, whatever. I like seeing these fans liking these pictures and supporting me when I get to do some cool stuff. It's definitely a nice little feeling to, have someone reach out and say, oh, I watched you on these indie shows and now all of a sudden you're on Dark, and it's so crazy, because it is so crazy. And I appreciate you following along with me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this, man. We've had a blast.
Yeah, it's been a good time.
Yeah, you always have a seat here, man. If you want to come on and just talk about figures, we're all about that too.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Awesome, man. Thanks. Have a great day. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you.